There is something quietly surprising about the daily habits of a king. While many imagine gold plates, rare wines, and heavy meals, the truth can be much simpler and far more unusual. In the case of King Charles III, his tastes often lean not toward luxury, but toward nature. He prefers food that grows close to the soil, food that is clean, simple, and carefully chosen. Yet even within that simplicity, there are small details that may surprise you. For example, he has been known to travel with his own organic produce, even on royal visits. He has spoken openly about his dislike for processed food. And perhaps most curious of all, he has spent decades quietly supporting organic farming long before it became fashionable. Why would a man surrounded by the finest chefs choose something so humble? As we move through this story, you may begin to see a different side of royal life. Not one of excess, but one of careful choices and quiet discipline. And along the way, we will explore what some have called 15 rather strange yet fascinating habits behind his food preferences. If you enjoy thoughtful stories like this, you might consider subscribing. And if any of these details remind you of your own habits, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Many viewers find comfort in these small connections. It begins with something very simple: organic eggs. For most people, eggs are an everyday item, taken without much thought. But for the king, they are a matter of care and attention. According to reports from royal kitchens, he prefers eggs that come from chickens raised in natural conditions. He is said to notice the colour, the texture, in even the way they are cooked. Why such attention to something so ordinary? This question leads us deeper into his mindset. For him, food is not just fuel, it is a reflection of how we treat the land. This belief became clear as early as the 1980s, when he began speaking about organic farming at a time when few others did. Some even thought his ideas were unusual back then. Then there is his fondness for organic vegetables grown at Highgrove House. This private estate has become something of a model for sustainable agriculture. Gardens there produce carrots, beans, and leafy greens without artificial chemicals. It is not simply a hobby, it is a long-term commitment. One might wonder, does growing his own food change how he sees the world? Perhaps it slows time. Perhaps it brings a sense of control in a life that is otherwise very public. If this quiet lifestyle interests you, you may want to stay with us through the full story. There is much more to uncover. Another favourite is organic honey. Unlike store-bought varieties, this honey comes from carefully kept bees, often within royal grounds. Honey, in many ways, is one of the oldest foods known to humanity. It connects past and present in a gentle way. For the king, it is both a pleasure and a symbol of balance in nature. At this point, you might ask yourself, how many of us truly know where our food comes from? There is also his preference for organic dairy. Milk, cheese, and butter are chosen not just for taste, but for how they are produced. Reports suggest he favours farms that treat animals with care and avoid heavy processing. It is a quiet statement about responsibility. Some viewers have shared memories of simpler meals from their own childhoods. If this brings something to mind for you, feel free to share it below. These small reflections often mean more than we expect. Then comes something slightly more unexpected: organic mutton. While many today prefer lighter meats, the king has shown a liking for traditional British dishes, often prepared with organic ingredients. This choice reflects both heritage and personal taste. It reminds us that food can carry history within it. But why return to older traditions in a modern world? The answer may lie in his long-standing interest in environmental balance. He has often spoken about the dangers of over-industrial farming. His choices, even at the dining table, seem to reflect a deeper concern. We also find his interest in organic fruit quite telling. Apples, Plums and berries grown without chemicals are said to be among his favourites. These fruits are often harvested from royal estates, adding a personal connection to each meal. It is a quiet luxury, not of cost, but of care. And then there is organic tea, a daily ritual, simple yet meaningful. Tea has always held a special place in British culture, but for the king, it becomes something more. It is chosen with the same care as everything else, often sourced from ethical producers. Could such small choices truly shape a life? As we continue, we will discover that each of these foods tells a story, not just about taste, but about values, time, and a certain quiet discipline that defines his way of living. There is something almost meditative in the way these choices continue. As we move further into his daily habits, the pattern becomes clearer. Each food is not simply selected for flavour, but for meaning, and that meaning often reaches far beyond the plate. Take organic oats, for example. A simple breakfast, quiet and steady. Reports from those familiar with royal routines suggest that King Charles III often begins his day with a modest meal. Organic oats, sometimes prepared with milk or fruit, provide a slow and steady source of energy. It is not a grand royal feast. It is something closer to what many people have known for generations. Why would a king choose such a humble start to the day? Perhaps it reflects discipline, or perhaps it shows a deeper respect for routine. In a life filled with constant change, a simple breakfast may offer a moment of calm. As you listen, you may find yourself thinking about your own morning habits. If so, feel free to share them. These small routines often carry quiet meaning. Then there is his preference for organic bread. Bread, one of the oldest foods in human history, carries a sense of comfort and tradition. According to reports, he prefers bread made from organic grains, often prepared in traditional ways. No unnecessary additives, no shortcuts. It raises a gentle question. In a world moving so quickly, what do we lose when we forget these older methods? Moving forward, we find something slightly unexpected. Organic mushrooms. Not a common favourite for everyone, yet they hold a place in his diet. Mushrooms grow in quiet shaded spaces, often hidden from view. They require patience and care to cultivate properly. In many ways, they reflect the same quiet values seen throughout his choices. At this point, you may begin to notice a pattern. Nothing is rushed. Nothing is careless. Another interesting detail comes from his use of organic herbs. Fresh herbs, such as thyme, rosemary, and mint, are often grown in the gardens of Highgrove House. These herbs are not only used for flavour, but also for their natural qualities. For centuries, herbs have been part of both cooking and healing traditions. Could it be that these older practices still hold value today? If this reminds you of a garden you once tended, or perhaps herbs grown in your own home, you might consider sharing that memory. Many viewers find comfort in these simple connections. Then we come to organic chicken. Unlike mass-produced poultry, organic chicken is raised with greater care and allowed more natural movement. It is said that meals prepared with such ingredients have a different taste, one that is often described as richer and more authentic. For the king, this choice may reflect both personal preference and a broader message about animal welfare. But there is also something else here. A quiet consistency, a refusal to follow convenience when it conflicts with values. As we continue, we find organic nuts becoming part of the picture. Almonds, walnuts, and other varieties are often included in meals or snacks. Nuts have long been valued for their natural oils and nutrients. They are simple, portable, and require very little processing. It brings to mind a simple question. Have modern habits made us forget the value of such basic foods? There is also his preference for organic soups. Light, nourishing, and often made from fresh vegetables, soups offer both comfort and health. In many cultures, soup is seen as a healing food, something given during times of rest or recovery. For someone with a demanding public role, such meals may provide both physical and mental ease. At this point, the pattern feels almost complete, yet there is still more to uncover. One particularly interesting choice is organic jam. Made from fruits grown without chemicals, these preserves carry a sense of tradition. Many of these jams are produced from fruits harvested at royal estates, including those at Highgrove. The process itself is slow and careful, often following methods that have changed little over time. Why hold on to such traditions in an age of convenience? Perhaps because they offer something that cannot be replaced. A connection to the past, a reminder of patience. Some viewers have mentioned that homemade jam was once a common part of family life. If this brings back memories for you, you are welcome to share them. And these shared experiences often create a quiet sense of community. We also find organic fish among his preferred foods. Sustainably sourced and carefully prepared, fish offers a lighter alternative to heavier meats. It aligns with his long-standing concern for environmental balance, especially when it comes to protecting oceans and natural habitats. This choice feels particularly important in today's world. Then there is organic cheese. Rich, varied, and deeply rooted in British tradition, cheese holds a special place in many meals. When produced organically, it reflects careful farming practices and respect for both animals and land. At this stage, one might pause and reflect. These are not extravagant choices. They are not rare or unreachable. Yet together, they form a lifestyle that is both deliberate and thoughtful. And perhaps that is the most surprising detail of all. If you have stayed with us this far, you might consider subscribing for more stories like this. And if any part of this journey has resonated with you, your thoughts are always welcome. As we move into the final part, we will look beyond the food itself and explore what these choices reveal about the man behind them. As we reach the final part of this story, the focus begins to shift. The foods themselves are simple, familiar, and in many cases quite ordinary. Yet together, they form something much larger. They offer a quiet window into the inner world of King Charles III, a man whose life has been shaped by duty, tradition, and a deep concern for the future. It is easy to think of royal life as distant and grand, but these choices suggest something else. A preference for balance, a respect for nature, a belief that even the smallest daily habits can carry meaning. For many years, his interest in organic farming was seen as unusual. During the late 20th century, when industrial methods were expanding rapidly, he spoke openly about the risks of chemical use in agriculture. According to several royal biographers, his views were not always welcomed at the time. Some even described them as old-fashioned. Yet time has a way of changing perspective. Today, organic food is no longer a rare idea. It is widely discussed, often encouraged, and increasingly understood. Looking back, his early support now seems less unusual and more forward-thinking. What does it mean when a once-questioned idea becomes widely accepted? This question invites a deeper reflection. Perhaps it reminds us that change often begins quietly, with individuals willing to stand apart from the norm. At Highgrove House, this philosophy is not just spoken, it is lived. The gardens, the soil, the careful methods of farming all reflect a long-term vision. It is not about quick results. It is about sustainability, patience, and respect for natural cycles. Visitors who have seen these grounds often describe a sense of calm. There is no rush, no excess, just steady care. And yet one might wonder, is such a lifestyle truly possible for everyone? Perhaps not in the same way. Not everyone has access to private gardens or large estates, but the deeper idea may still apply. Choosing food with care, valuing quality over quantity, taking time to understand where things come from. These are small steps, yet they can shape how we live. There is also an emotional layer to consider. Food is not only about health or environment, it is tied to memory, comfort, and identity. A simple bowl of oats, a slice of bread, a spoonful of honey. These are not grand gestures, yet they carry a quiet familiarity. For a man who has spent much of his life in the public eye, such moments may offer a rare sense of privacy. In this light, his choices feel less like rules and more like anchors, steady points in a life that is often changing. Some reports have suggested that he avoids heavy lunches, preferring lighter meals during the day. This habit, while simple, reflects discipline. It also suggests an awareness of balance, not only in food, but in daily rhythm. Why do such small patterns matter so much? Because they build over time. They shape energy, mood, and even perspective. A life is not made of grand events alone. It is built from daily habits, repeated quietly. As we reflect further, another detail begins to stand out. There is very little waste in this approach. Organic farming often encourages careful use of resources. Leftovers are minimized. Seasonal foods are valued. Everything has a place and a purpose. In a world where excess is common, this feels quietly powerful. It also connects to a broader message. That responsibility does not begin with large actions alone. It begins with simple choices made consistently. For older generations, much of this may feel familiar. There was a time when food was naturally seasonal, when gardens were common, when meals were prepared slowly. These practices were not trends. They were simply part of life. Has something been lost along the way? This question lingers gently, without judgment. As we come closer to the end, the story feels less about a king and more about a way of living. The foods themselves are not rare treasures. They are accessible, known, and often overlooked. And yet, when chosen with care, they become something more. They reflect patience in a fast world, thoughtfulness in a busy life, and a quiet respect for the natural order of things. There is also a sense of continuity here, a link between past and present. Many of the foods he prefers have been part of human diets for centuries. They connect generations, carrying forward traditions that might otherwise fade. In this way, each meal becomes part of a larger story. As we pause on this final note, it is worth considering what we might take from this journey. Not necessarily the exact foods, but the intention behind them, the care, the awareness, the quiet discipline. Life does not need to be extravagant to be meaningful. Sometimes it is the simplest choices that leave the deepest mark, and perhaps that is the most lasting impression of all.